Every fight that neither fighter gets hurt, and it's just happened to be, it's just one of them things that happen, and just try to look past it and try to keep it out of my mind as I.
Yes.
You had scored a great victory against Sean Thomas. You had knocked him out. And then after the fight, what happened? He was taken to the hospital?
Yeah, so they had to carry him out of the ring, and they took him to the hospital, and I think it was, he stayed in a coma. I think he died like three weeks later.
After you
the fight,
fought him
yeah.
and knocked him
Yes.
out. Now, when it was over, of course, you weren't obviously trying to kill him, but did you feel some guilt, you know, even though since he had died at the...
Yes, I mean, it stays in your mind, and I mean, the guilt saying, fighting for money, you know, and I never got to tell the parents that I was sorry and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you never got to talk to his family or anything
Nope.
and tell them you were sorry. And, you know, really, there was more than one person that died in that fight because your career, you know, you were one of the hottest prospects in the world at that time.
Yeah.
17 wins, 16 knockouts. You know, people thought you were going to be the next lightweight champion of the world. And several months after that fight, you fought Greg Hall, more punching power. You lost to Hogan. Hogan turned around and won the world championship after that.
Yes, and I think defended it 3 times or something.
Yeah.
2 or 3 times.
So that fight hurt more than the opponent. It hurt you, and it hurt your career too, didn't it?
Yes, I took a, you know, like a boxer's, they call it killer instinct. You know, usually when I had get somebody hurt like that in the ring, I'd stay on top of them, and it wasn't in me no more.
Just didn't have the desire, that killer instinct to hurt people, and I can certainly understand why. And, you know, and so we've got your situation. Pastor, let me go to Pastor Johnny Minnick here. Here's a man that, you know, was a professional fighter, got paid to box, and really, you know, wasn't making that much money. I mean, if you'd won the championship, that's what you were fighting for.
Yes.
But you ended up killing a man in the ring, and you can see, Pastor, that he's still carrying some guilt from that today. What would you tell Chris, you know, after all of these years?
Well, the first thing that I thought of in listening to this story is how unfortunate it is that we use the terminology that we do. It wasn't in his heart to kill anyone, and yet we use the terminology killer instinct.
Yeah.
When really what he's wanting to do is end the fight just as soon as possible, you know, and promote his career. And in a sporting event, it can happen in football. We've seen people carried off the field and die later. It can. I've heard of it on the basketball court. It really doesn't matter what sport it is or what activity. People die, and you know, it would be so easy to carry that guilt around, knowing that you've participated in someone's demise. But it's really not a lot different than driving a car and being in a wreck, being responsible for someone else's death. You know, that guilt, that weight rests upon you, and the only one that I know that can really help is the Lord. The Lord can search the crevices of our mind and our heart and the hidden things that no one else would even begin to know. And He can search out those things of our conscience and help us and heal us and bring us to a new life. And that's the greatest thing we can ever do, is turn our sorrows and our sadness and our disappointments over to the Lord, because He's the only one that can heal us from the inside out.
Yeah. And so if there's somebody, I'm sure there's hundreds, maybe thousands of people out there watching that have done something in their life that, you know, that they're like Chris, they're still carrying the guilt 20, 30 years later. Pastor, how do they get rid of the guilt?
Well, I noticed that you said, too, that you never had the opportunity to apologize to the parents. So that is lack of closure. I don't know that that opportunity will ever happen, but God provides us a way to bring closure to things that we have absolutely no power over. You're talking about a one-stop shop, an altar of prayer when we just give up and let Jesus take over. Right. When we lay our burden at the feet of Jesus and we admit that we're just sinners that need a Savior. And my best recommendation is, as the old gospel song said, have a little talk with Jesus.
Amen.
And He has the power to make everything right.
Right. Wow. And folks, we'll be back in just a moment. But when we come back, we've talked to Chris here, who inadvertently knocked a man out who died after their boxing match. But we're going to talk to a couple of dear friends who also, in wartime, accidentally killed someone. And we're going to talk to them about how they found forgiveness when we come back in just a moment.